Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's presentation. We are going to go ahead and get started.
More than 5 billion people around the world continue to struggle with money and financial illiteracy.
It's Madison Avenue manipulation, right? It's been going on for years and we buy into it.
How bad is financial illiteracy?
It's not taught in school, so people don't know this naturally.
Oh, you're right.
So you grow up not knowing anything about it. You make a lot of mistakes along the way, and we're hoping to educate them and teach them how money really works so they can learn the cause and effect of all this.
And it doesn't have to be generational.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly right.
Break that cycle.
Once you understand the basics of financial literacy, it changes your life. The secret is financial literacy. I mean, teaching your kids how money works. I think it's really understanding how money works. Once they understand the basics of how money works, they shouldn't have to struggle for very long.
Steve Siebold and Tom Matthews are the authors of How Money Works. Stop being a sucker.
Money means possibility. It means opportunity. It means freedom. Things you've always wanted to do, dreams that you have. Money makes it possible.
You know, of all the interviews we've had in the last 6 weeks, I'm actually most encouraged by that one.
So welcome again. It is so great to have you here with me today. My name is Shantae Moore. I will be your financial educator for the next half hour, and I would like to welcome you to the How Money Works Elements educational series taught today on Zoom. This course is based on the groundbreaking book, How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker, now with over 500,000 copies in print. And How Money Works is the first financial education book that anyone at any age can enjoy and benefit from, literally from age 10 all the way to age 100. And speaking of the number 100, the book has now been featured on over 100 prominent TV shows, including CNBC, CBS, ABC, and Fox. The How Money Works book has received a rare endorsement from the Heartland Institute of Financial Education, and it has been reviewed and referenced all over the web, including the popular online financial publication, Make It by CNBC. You can also follow How Money Works on Instagram for practical tips and helpful resources at How Money Works Official. And if you have not received a copy of the book yet, you are able to order it on Amazon, or I would be happy to send you a complimentary copy. Just contact me via however you got access to this webinar presentation. And then, let us know when we finish. And after the presentation, once I finish, just let me know and I'll make sure to get you one. So our class today is the fifth of the 5 elements titled Long Term. And once you complete all 5 element courses, you'll receive a certificate of completion signed by the authors of the book and also signed by myself. Also, students who attend at least one of the elements classes can take advantage of a free 30-minute consultation with one of our How Money Works experts. They are trained to help you chart a course to financial independence using our 7 Money Stop Milestones methodology. So I think this is probably one of the most exciting of the 5 classes. That's probably why we save the best for last, because long term is all about your future. You are going to learn techniques used by wealthy people and what they use to create financial independence. And then you'll also learn how to protect your wealth as a legacy for leaving money behind for your family. So as we talked about, we use a 7 money milestone approach when we are working with individuals and helping them to better their finances. And today we're beginning with number 6 of the money milestones. And 6 is a big one. And again, like I said, it's a really exciting one. And why is that? Well, because it centers on building wealth. This is really the milestone where the results of your savings and your goal planning, this is really where those results will appear on your bottom line. And this is where you avoid the impact of taxes, losses, and inflation. And generally, this is the milestone where you're doing your best to accumulate and grow your net worth. So with the possibility of longevity adding so many years to life, that really does bring up one question, which is, will your wealth last as long as you do. And it's a question that you must be able to answer. We don't second guess things over here at all. So, according to a recent study, 63% of people have a greater fear of running out of money in retirement than dying. And it's a real threat in light of this eye-opening statistic. Because when you look at retirement age couples, that means that there's a 50% chance that one spouse will live past age 95. And here's really the bottom line of milestone number 6. At whatever stage you are in life, the whole point is that you have to start building wealth now. So just put it another way, yesterday is better than tomorrow. So as you embark on wealth building, there are 4 disciplines to help you stay on track and not lose ground. So I want you to go and, we're going to go through each of these 4 disciplines. And just look at them with me. It's basically save regularly and don't touch it. So we'll review your goals as needed and make adjustments if things change. So in addition to that, there are 4 threats that every wealth builder must conquer. And you have to think of these as your wealth building enemies, because each one will likely come from you at a different direction. And to beat them, you really have to address them individually. So let's just start with the worst one listed here, procrastination, because as one quote says, procrastination can be hands down our favorite form of self-sabotage. So then we'll pick apart market losses, inflation, and then, of course, taxes. But when it comes to procrastination, I truly believe it's the enemy of saving and investing, and it's best described as inaction. And the best way to overcome procrastination is prioritization. You simply move the 5 actions that I'm going to go over to overcome financial procrastination to the top of your to-do list. Flag them as urgent and get started on them immediately. You can never get back lost time. Time is one asset that we all have, but so many people waste it. And you really have to stop doing that today. I mean, so many people who in their mind, they are working on other goals when really these five steps right here are really what you should be focusing on first, especially when it comes to your finances. So let's talk about the second enemy of building wealth, which is inflation. And it's also known as the tax of time. I think a lot of people very rarely consider inflation when it comes to how that can impact their wealth and their savings. So the annual inflation rate has averaged at 2.8% for the last 100 years. Which basically means that every single year, the cost of goods, they increase by about 2.8%. So can you approximate the number of years that it'll take the cost of goods to double at a steady 2.8% annual inflation rate? And if you took our concepts element course, you learned about the rule of 72, which basically states that you take the interest rate, which will actually be the inflation rate, divided into 72, and that's how long it will take for the cost of goods to double if we still looked at inflation as it has been going the past 100 years. So the answer here, if inflation has been averaging 2.8%, according to the rule of 72, that's almost 26 years, the cost of goods will actually double. And one of the essential reasons to build wealth using the power of compound interest, which is another concept that we taught you in one of the other elements classes, is that compounding interest actually helps you stay ahead of inflation. Because when you know that this enemy is slowly devaluing your savings by raising the cost of goods, it should drive you to be more committed to your growth building strategy. So don't let inflation scare you, just let it drive you to action. So basically, I always typically tell my clients, if you're saving your money anywhere, a particular long term, you want to earn more interest than inflation. So you want to earn more than 2.8% on your savings, any savings that you have. Most people, though, have most of their money sitting in a bank account that's earning 0.09%. So that's why we're saying you're losing money, because you're not even keeping up with inflation when it comes to how much interest that you're earning on the money that you have set aside. So if you want a rule of thumb, earn more than 2.8% growth. And if you need help figuring out where to put money to do that, that's where you want to reach out to someone like myself. So the next enemy to wealth building is the impact of losses. And I think this is often underestimated because it's really a threat that can wreck your savings goal and force you to adjust your lifestyle in retirement. So here's a simple picture that illustrates how people miscalculate the impact of losses. So in this example, let's say you were to lose 50% of your investment account, which, by the way, that actually happened twice in the stock market in the last 20 years. What percentage of gain would you need to get back to 100? Most people would say, well, I lost 50%, so I need to earn back 50%, right? Actually, that's not right. That's wrong. It takes 100% gain after 50% loss to get back to even. And that's not easy to do, which is why it's important to protect what you have. And maybe this is the reason why Warren Buffett, he's, a famous stock investor. He always says this about investing. He says, rule number one, never lose money. Rule number two, never forget rule number one. So what can you do to prevent losses? Well, first, you want to really look at every option that's available to you to reduce the risk. I meet so many people who are trying to invest money on their own, and they're typically like picking individual stocks. They don't know how risky those stocks are, but they don't know where else to look. So most people invest in something like that, and they don't know how to reduce the losses because they don't look and seek professional guidance to give them more options. Second, you really need to consider how best to diversify your portfolio. So like I said, most people just, buy a bunch of stocks. That's not diversity. You might need stocks, bonds, ETFs, UIT accounts, REITs. There's so many different type of investments out there that you want to consider using to diversify your portfolio. And let me make it clear, diversification does not mean having money at, one investment account and then open up another investment account at another financial institution. That's not diversification. That's just having a bunch of money spread across different companies. You can have your money in one company and still be able to diversify your portfolio. Anyway, thirdly, you want to use financial vehicles for your situation, the right financial vehicles. Again, this is when people try to do this stuff on their own, they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know the different resources, the different type of accounts, the different financial vehicles that are available out there. They think it's just, oh, let me open a brokerage account and buy stocks, and that's it. There's so many options out there. So the whole point of the thing is that you don't want to procrastinate. You got to consider inflation. And most importantly, talk with a financial professional. We know these things. We have the options. We have many recommendations that we can make to you to help you reduce or remove altogether the impact of losses from your strategy. And last, the impact of taxes. This is probably the 800-pound gorilla of wealth building threats. Very few people consider taxes when it comes to their wealth. And ultimately, obviously, nobody likes paying taxes either, especially when you're preparing for retirement or you're about to retire. So you have to understand that the tax strategy that you put in place today can determine, it will determine how much money you keep in the future. It'll determine how much money you pay the government, and ultimately it will determine how much money you leave for your kids. So understanding how different financial vehicles are taxed differently, that can help you make strategic decisions that can pay off big time down the road. So let's just break this down a little more. So let's say, for example, you save $10,000 at age 29 and you were earning 9% interest every single year. And basically that 10,000 would grow to about $250,000 by the time that you reach age 65. So let's just think like a farmer for a second. If you're a farmer, would you rather pay taxes on the seed or the harvest? Of course, whichever is smaller, which is usually what you start with. A farmer would rather pay taxes on the seed and not the harvest that those seeds actually grow into. So same thing for an investor. They would rather pay taxes on the money before it grows, not after. Depending on what type of account you open, you either pay taxes now, later, or never. And think about your current investments, if you have any. As I go through these, which one will apply to you? Because it does depend on the financial vehicle that you use, the type of investment account that you open, or the type of financial product that you save into. And there's three ways that you could be taxed. Tax now accounts. These are what we call taxable accounts. Taxes are paid on interest, earnings, and dividends every single year. You get a 1099 INT that you have to report to the IRS to say that I earn X amount of interest in that account. You have your tax later accounts. We also call them tax deferred. Taxes are paid when you start taking distributions, typically in retirement, which means that you're not paying taxes while that money is growing and investing. But when it becomes the big harvest, that's when you pay taxes. The problem with that is that we don't know what the tax rates will be in the future. So we're basically most people save into this tax later bucket, and they're putting so much money into a place where they have no clue how much they'll be able to keep, because we don't know what the tax rates will be when they decide to retire. Then there's some accounts that we call tax never. They're tax free. Taxes are not owed on earnings and distributions. There's a lot of guidelines, there's a lot of rules, but those are the most tax favorable accounts that you can invest in. So again, this is where a financial professional can help you. They can help you look at the different accounts you have and help you determine where would be the best place to help you from a tax perspective. And so when you sit, when you sit down with a financial professional, like I said, we'll look at any of your accounts that you currently have, or we'll help you identify what are the best accounts that you can put your money, whether, figure out how you're being taxed now and what your strategy can be going forward. So when you look at the colors of the icons, tax now is red, tax later is yellow, and tax never are green. The decisions, they get simpler when you break it down to these categories and colors. And when you look at like taxable accounts in the red, look at the type of accounts that they talk about. How do they describe those? Investments from business income or salary and wages, taxes paid annually. The yellow accounts, the tax later, are typically your long-term retirement accounts. That'll be like 401ks, 403bs, 457s, IRAs, annuities. You don't pay taxes now, you pay taxes later, typically when you start to pull money out. And just think to yourself, do you have any red or yellow financial vehicles as you see here? And if so, now you know how you will be taxed on the growth in those accounts. Now, green is the color of money, and we like to represent that as growth as well. It's also our color for a tax never. And the different types of accounts can be taxed completely different. Now, understand that green icons, first of all, it doesn't mean that you'll never pay no taxes at all, right? Typically it does mean that. I look at these as in very positively. And just think to yourself, are any of these tax vehicles part of your current wealth building strategy? Do you have any government bonds? Do you have a Roth IRA account? Have you, applied for and qualified for permanent life insurance? Again, this is something that your financial professional can be a great help to you to help you choose the right products for you. So the boxer Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And I think I heard he was talking about coming out of retirement. He's in his 50s now and hasn't boxed for more than 15 years, I believe. But maybe he should listen to his own words, because the best way to avoid running out of money in retirement is not by putting yourself in the position for it to happen to you. In other words, you want to stay out of the ring. You don't want to get punched in the mouth when it comes to your money. So in a recent Gallup survey, 85% of non-retired American investors strongly agree that having a guaranteed income stream in retirement to supplement Social Security benefits is critical. And guaranteed income can help you avoid the risk of running out of money in retirement. Far too often, people retire and they 100% solely depend on Social Security. We know that Social Security was not built to be your only source of income in retirement. On top of that, we know financially and statistically, Social Security is dramatically underfunded. So we don't even know in the future how much even longer that government program will even be able to sustain itself. So if I were you, if I'm planning for retirement, I wouldn't plan to 100% depend on Social Security. That might lead you into financial troubles. So there are three components of a reliable retirement income, and we recommend that you consider all of them. The main potential for growth on any of your wealth building accounts is by participating in the upside growth potential tied to the stock market. And a lot of people, they don't know how to invest in the stock market. I get that. I understand that. We'll go through it, very, very, very high level today and in a couple of slides. But the whole idea is that that's probably the best place that you'll be able to accumulate and grow wealth. However, there also comes some risk with doing so. And I want to talk to you about how do we reduce or remove those potential risk or basically losing money by eliminating those downside, when the market drops, we got to eliminate how can we protect our money if the market were to drop. Because ultimately we want to create a predictable income stream that lasts. And also to one that we don't have to worry about where you're not worried about running out of money in retirement, because you'll have an income stream that you can actually count on. So here's what it looks like when you nail it. This is when we say the gap is closed. You've reached your retirement savings goal, because basically you want to have multiple streams of income coming in for retirement. So for this person, they will have reliable income because they save the amount necessary, and also they got the rate of return necessary to reach the savings required to make the retirement that they imagine possible. This person in our example, they'll never run out of money in retirement and could even have some left over to leave as a legacy to their children. When you really think about that, that's all we really want, right? So you can work with your financial professional to figure out what are your different income streams, and what do those numbers need to be. In our example here, this person has, Social Security. They have that predictable income from the government. They have reliable income. This is money that they might have earned through the workplace, maybe a pension. And then they also have their own personal savings. This is accumulated money from their own savings. That could be something from maybe like the cash value in a life insurance policy or their 401k plan. So there's so many different ways that we can help you figure out what your different streams of income need to be in the future. So, and the last milestone that we'll go through the last couple minutes here is protecting your wealth by creating a will and also guarding your legacy. Prince and Aretha Franklin, both of whom died just a few years ago, had sizable estates, but neither had an estate plan. Both of them left their families and business partners with an emotional, financial, and legal mess, which has been taking years to sort out. I believe even right now in 2021, I don't think neither one of their estates have actually settled yet. Prince died back in 2016 and Aretha Franklin died in 2018. And this shows you how important it is to protect your wealth with an estate plan. And according to a Rocket Law survey, 64% of Americans do not have a will. And not surprisingly, the number is higher for younger Americans. We would consider those age 45 to 54. 74% of those Americans do not have a will. And then when we look at older Americans, those who are age 55 to 64, 54% of them do not have a will. Prince, he was only 57. So your estate plan is how you protect your wealth, your family, and your legacy when you die or if you're incapacitated. It's how your wishes and decisions are carried out. So your estate plan is how you protect, again, those things. If something happens to you, it's a set of documents, including your will, which will be used by your loved ones to carry out your wishes and your decisions. So there are 4 documents that your estate plan should include. You will need a will, your financial power of attorney, an advanced healthcare directive, or a living will, and a HIPAA release form. And again, your legal professional can help you put all of this in place. I know our company has relationships with estate planning companies that can also help you. So if you're interested in that, definitely contact me. But having a estate plan in place, it can help you avoid, the government making these decisions about who gets your property and who takes care of your children. So the process of a court getting involved and determining, those things, we call it administering your estate. That's where they use state laws, and that's a process called probate. And basically, nobody wants to go through that if they don't have to. It's very costly and it can be a very lengthy process. You can also help your family and business partners avoid those unnecessary expenses and delays through the probate process by having one additional estate planning tool, which is a trust. I love talking about trust because trust can do so many things for you. They're listed here on the page. I won't go through all of them. Again, your legal professional can give you the best advice when it comes to trust. If you're interested in learning about my perspective on trust, I have a couple videos that I can share with you. I love talking to my clients about trust. So please keep in mind that some assets, they also can pass directly on to your named beneficiaries at death. And it doesn't matter if you have a will or a trust. Those will come into place with things like life insurance, annuities, IRAs, 401ks, and other qualified retirement plans. They all work that way because you have to name a beneficiary on those accounts, which means that if something happened to you, those assets will pass on directly to those beneficiaries. Some bank and investment accounts also distribute funds directly to your beneficiaries. You just have to ask them, can I add a beneficiary to, my bank account or my investment account? And if you have a joint account, let's say you're a husband and wife, typically those accounts are set up with rights of survivorship, which means that if something happened to one of the joint owners, the assets would automatically transfer 100% to the remaining joint owner on that account. So if you think estate planning will be too expensive or time consuming, it's really not. You really haven't considered the cost that it will save your loved ones down the road. And the truth is, there are options for almost every budget. And I always recommend that you put this milestone in place right away. There's no point in saving and investing your money if you do not protect your money. So we're at the conclusion of today's session and entire How Money Works Elements class. Milestone, like you just learned about, will bring up questions like the ones that you see here on the screen. Again, this is where a financial professional is the best person to turn to for questions like these and others. I can discuss this with you if you don't have one or if you need help choosing one, because sharing financial literacy and educating is what I do. I love it. So thank you. I really appreciate your time and attention. And I wish you all the best, on your future. If you need help with those milestones 6 or 7. As I wrap up, I just want to let you know that, our mission is to teach 20 million families how money works within the next decade. We are going to stamp out financial illiteracy in every community. And that's a huge undertaking and one that will require an army of thousands of How Money Works educators. So just so you know, we're looking for people to help us teach these classes. That's where you can come in, or somebody that might come in who'll be interested in doing this work. Also we help folks when it comes to helping them with their finances. So on the screen here, you see a worksheet that we use. It's called the Money Discovery Worksheet. It's at the back of the book, and it's a worksheet that folks can fill out so they can see where they are, where do they need to go. And this is what we use to help give them professional guidance. And then last thing I want to share is, like I mentioned earlier, how many. So as I mentioned earlier, our How Money Works experts are available to sit down with you now that you've attended one of our elements classes. And the question is, how do these concepts work for you and your financials and your personal numbers? How much faster will you be able to complete the 7 money milestones when you have an expert guiding you? So if that's something that you're interested in taking advantage of, we start with a phone consultation. It's a private, short phone call. It's focused exclusively on your financial goals. And if you're interested, again, we'll help you crush the numbers. We'll help you make recommendations. And also, most importantly, give you access to the best products and services that are available. So contact me after, watching this webinar. And obviously for those attending the class, if you don't have someone that you're working with, contact me and I'll be happy to see how I can help you start putting your money work today. So if you like what you learned today and would like more, again, you can follow How Money Works on Instagram at How Money Works Official for more practical tips and helpful resources. Until then, you all have a great day. Have a good one. Bye now.